Carolinas and Atlantic slave trade. From Cape Hatteras and Cape Fear in the Carolinas to the coastal islands of Georgia and Florida's Cape Canaveral and Keys, the Atlantic tide swept ashore drifters from all over Europe seeking fame and fortune in the post-revolution southern states of the new American Republic. Ships laden with black slaves from Africa and the Caribbean, pirates kept afloat with illicit booty of random offshore banditry, especially in the so-called Bahamas Channel, and whalers and fishermen plied the southern sea of the eastern United States. Planters inland, both foreign and indigenous, maneuvered with and against each other to claim lands of rich soil and freshwater reservoirs, surrounded by swamps, inhabited by marsh-dwelling wildlife, undisturbed from time immemorial. Where the South Santee River empties into the Atlantic Ocean, eastern Charleston County, South Carolina, retains the smell and flavor of undisturbed colonial marshland. The Santee Delta Wildlife Management Area offers private encounters with alligators, birds, and massive oak tree canopies. Pinckney Island National Wildlife Refuge, bordering Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, is yet another nesting rookery for colonial wading birds such as the ibis, egrets, and herons. Just as the northern and western North American woodlands and plains were being explored and acquired for, quote, civilized employment, the southern plantation network evolved with the manpower and woman power of a slave-tolerant agricultural trade in tobacco, cotton, and grain. Spanish commander Ponce de Leon purportedly named the territory of Carolina, also known as Carolina Colony, in the early 1500s. However, there is sparse evidence of Spanish attempts to settle. It was the French and then the British and wealthy men from the West Indies, primarily Barbados, that then more actively engaged with the scattered native Indian groups, with the English gaining the upper hand. The Carolinas, north and south, were originally considered part of the colony and dominion of Virginia from around 1609 to 1663. Much later, though, early in the 18th century, settlements in the region divided into two royal colonies named Carolina to honor King Charles I of England. South Carolina was admitted to the Union in 1788 as the 8th state, while North Carolina was conferred statehood months later in 1789. Charleston was the wealthy port for a prosperous, quote, low country, or South Carolina. North Carolina's tobacco farms relied heavily on slave labor, but its southern counterpart apparently hosted the first slave families. In 1671, estimates put 30% of the population of the southern coast as slave. By 1708, more than half of the non-Indian population was slave, according to some attempts to count, making the Carolinas the only colony with a black majority. As in the West Indies at the time, in some low country communities or parishes, the ratio of blacks to whites was as high as 4 to 1. Lieutenant Governor William Bull ruled approximately 45,000 whites and 80,000 blacks in the South Carolina settlements shortly before the Revolutionary War erupted. Charleston already had established itself as a unique, vibrant port and cultural mecca. Georgia's Golden Islands, including St. Simon's and Jekyll Barrier Isles, fostered cotton and rice plantations in the post-Spanish era. At the Bloody Marsh Battle, British troops foiled a Spanish advance on St. Simon's Fort Frederica, established by General James Oglethorpe in the 1730s. Oglethorpe named the neighbor island in honor of Sir Joseph Jekyll, a financial backer of the Georgia colony, and assigned Major William Horton to build an outpost on Jekyll Island to protect Frederica. Major Horton built the island into a relatively prosperous plantation. Among the most notable gatherings recorded on Jekyll were the Diplomacy of Nations in 1736, a noble attempt by the English, the Spanish, and Creek Indians to settle their differences through diplomacy, and a conference of financial titans in 1912 hosted by Senator Nelson Aldrich, creating an early version of the Federal Reserve banking system in the U.S. The mystery of Jekyll Island, Georgia, one of that state's Golden Isles, is held in the sacrosanct custody of the naked tree remnants that litter what is known as Driftwood Beach. The best vantage point on the island is before and at sunrise, when a visitor can witness the unfolding of a ghostly collection of wooden sculptures chiseled and channeled by wind and water for uncounted centuries. More than 3,000 years of human habitation has been identified from some of Jekyll Island's sandy soils, but the abundant litter of wood in its chorus of silent but shifting patterns by sun and moon is no less than one of the wonders of America's Atlantic coastline. In 1792, a family known as the Dubignons created a famed Sea Island cotton business that prospered until at least the Civil War. John Eugene Dubignon marketed Jekyll Island as a hunting club also. And in 1886, the island was purchased by the Jekyll Island Club. Until World War II, the club acquired a reputation as an exclusive millionaire's playground, patronized by the likes of J.P. Morgan, Joseph Pulitzer, William Vanderbilt, and William Rockefeller, among others. In 1947, the island was sold to the state of Georgia for use as a state park. Early in the 20th century, William Hart, an assistant superintendent in charge of protecting the island's wildlife for hunters, was patrolling the driftwood beach. Two poachers stealing turtle eggs scuffled with him and then shot Hart dead. Some reports indicate Hart still patrols Driftwood Beach at dawn, his footprints always washed away by the waves. On the western side of the island is the nation's Atlantic Intracoastal Waterway, which extends almost the length of the eastern seaboard from Massachusetts to Florida. A survey authorized by Congress in 1826 to develop a canal was not completed, but gradually the many natural rivers, sounds, and inlets along the ocean were connected by man-made channels, providing a calmer alternative to open ocean travel. One segment, for instance, the Dismal Swamp Canal, flows 22 miles between Virginia and North Carolina through the Great Dismal Swamp National Wildlife Refuge.